Well, let's hear from somebody who knows Eddie Howe more than well. Simon Francis played under Eddie Howe at Bournemouth for just under 8 years by our reckoning, and that nod says it all. Simon, great to see you. I know you're on the coaching staff currently at Bournemouth. What does Eddie Howe bring to the table then, and what does he bring to that? What will he bring to that Newcastle dressing room?
Well, hi guys, afternoon. I think he can really revitalise that group of players there. I really do think he can. He can. Even just watching the first clips there, we've seen and online, I've been really eager and intrigued to see how he's got on in the past few days. And I spoke to Matt Ritchie up there as well. And he's been straight on the grass. He's been coaching almost straight away. And I think it's been important for him. I'm pretty sure Tim and Alan will agree with me that he's had these 2 weeks where there isn't a game in the next couple of days. He can really get some good work in to those players, get on the grass with them, really coach them, try and improve them in that short time and try and get that philosophy over to them that he wants from them, building up to that first huge game against Brentford at home.
Are they long training sessions? Does he keep it mixed? Does he try and keep the players interested?
They'll probably be a little bit longer in the international break. I will say that because there's a little bit more time to recover. There's obviously not the build-up to the match day this weekend or a midweek game. So I think he'll work them extra hard over the next few days. But he probably needs to. He needs to assess the players' fitness, where they're at mentally, physically, going into that big game. And then obviously as the Brentford game draws closer, I think training will be tailored down a little bit and the more tactical element will come into it, and he'll be able to progress from there and see where the squad is at.
And when he goes about selecting his team and looking at fitness levels, is he very much stats based? And, I suppose going into match situations, does he tend to fill the players' heads with those stats, or rather play with a clear head, play so they can play with a bit more freedom?
Yeah, good question. I think over the past few years, I think stats and the analysis side of football has really become very important in it. And Eddie was always open to that, definitely, especially when we were in the Premier League. Any marginal gains we could get, any little additives we could add to our game personally and as a team to improve us, and we would do. But I think there's no better way of being on the training ground and impressing. I think train as you want to play is a cliche, but Eddie's certainly wanted that from every single player. If you're going to put 100% into your training session, then ultimately you can do that on a match day. So I think he'll really take an important 2 weeks to look at these players building into the Brentford game, and it's fresh for him. I think it's a new slate for every player that's now under Eddie. The old regime, there might have been players out of favour or whatever, or not getting regular game time, but these 2 weeks you can bet your bottom dollar that every single player is working their socks off to try and get in that first 11 for the Brentford game.
Yeah, and Simon, interestingly, the size of clubs is very different, of course, comparing Bournemouth to Newcastle. One thing that I've thought about this week is the strength of personality. Has Eddie got it to manage a club the size of Newcastle United?
Yeah, he has, 100%. He's as genuine as you can get in the game. I think he's very honest with players. He's a very good man manager. He knows exactly what players need, whether it's an arm around their shoulder for some of the younger players who need a lot of confidence and building within that, or they're an experienced player who just needs a little tweak here and there and little tactical improvements to their game. I think he's very astute with that. And the time he's had out, I think will only make him more hungry to go in there and impress and put his stamp on that football club. And for me, what could be a really exciting era for Newcastle.
Simon, do you think this squad's suited to Eddie? I mean, obviously there are players that he worked with at Bournemouth. There's Callum Wilson, Matt Ritchie, Fraser. Do you think around those three as well, there's the kind of personnel that you can see an Eddie Howe team coming out of this Newcastle side?
Yeah, it's interesting, James, because I think as soon as he went in there, I had a look at their squad and I thought, what team would he play if he had to pick a team tomorrow? And I think he's got the attacking prowess there. I think there's a lot of ability, Premier League ability within that attacking team. I think you've got Sam Maximan, obviously Callum, the wee man Ryan Fraser, Matt Ritchie, who's got great delivery from wide. And we always built our success on wide play. I think we always created a lot of chances from wide, whether that was overlaps and underlaps from the fullback and good creative link-up play out wide, and then chances for our strikers. And I look at that squad and I think they can do that. Of course, they need to tighten up defensively. We know that. They're in a relegation battle. There's no hiding that. And he was a defender himself, so he'll put his stamp on that. But I do see a squad or a team that's capable of producing those kind of, not Eddie Howe kind of games and performances, because that's probably a little bit naive to think he can go in and just do that with a brand new squad in a different football club. But you're right, I do see him going in and putting his stamp on an attacking, progressive kind of team, and hopefully we'll see that.
Simon, when you look at the two clubs, obviously Bournemouth and Newcastle, just the difference in the size of the crowds. You know, at Bournemouth, you could perhaps, no disrespect, get beat 1-0 at home and you go to the car park and you're off. You get beat 1-0 at home at Newcastle, you can't get out the ground. You know what I mean? It's a totally different ball game. The pressure is totally different as well. Does Eddie realise what he's walked into?
I think you'll find out at 3 p.m. next Saturday, Alan. Yeah, I think so. You're absolutely spot on. I mean, you know, Bournemouth is a lovely family club and the crowd really do get behind the players. But you're right. It's, you know, we're talking about 50, 60,000 more fans on a match day on a home game. What I would imagine he'll be thinking is if he can get those fans on side early on in that first game, being on the front foot, attacking, pressing, creating chances, then that will give him a whole wealth of confidence, him and the players, and I think they'll thrive off that. I think that's exactly what they need in those first few games in and around against teams in and around them. But I think you're spot on. Yeah, I don't think until Saturday when he walks out, he will realise just how big a football club that is, and the fans will be right behind him as long as they start well.
Simon, did you know if Eddie had any other opportunities to leave? I think he had an opportunity to be James Bond, and he's the next James Bond, the way he's looking. Looking well, isn't he?
He's looking well. I think he's looked even younger, Tim, again, past couple of years. Somehow he manages to look younger every year. But I'm delighted for him, you know. I think he looks refreshed more than anything. I think he looks ready to go. I'm sure there are other opportunities, of course, when he was out of the game. And he was probably picking the phone up and turning offers down and jobs down because he wanted the time to be right. I think he was due a bit of family time, if I'm honest. And speaking to him a couple of times whilst he was out of the game, he was loving that side of it. And then as it drew closer to him getting this job, I know he was speaking to people about how hungry he was and focused about getting back in now. And he'd be watching other teams train around Europe and getting ideas in. So, yeah, I think there would have been opportunities for him. But I think once this one comes along, how do you turn it down, Tim? I think it's a fantastic opportunity, a huge football club.
Absolutely, mate. Give it a couple of months, he'll be like Steptoe again.
Well, I was just going to say, the big question is, with Eddie Howe, and Tim's last question is, will he have a licence to thrill at St James's Park? And he's got 3 Bournemouth players. He's got 3 former Bournemouth players, as James quite rightly mentioned, amongst his ranks. How important are they going to be for him, particularly to get the other players to buy into his training methods and his approach to match days?
Very important. Yeah, I mean, I speak to Matt Ritchie and Callum quite a lot. And it's funny, a lot of players who leave Bournemouth or stop working under Eddie Howe sometimes go to football clubs and they realise training's not as intense or they're not getting as much out of training. And you see that that's reflected on a match day as well. And they've been telling the lads, look, if Eddie does get this job, be ready to work hard in training because that's what it's going to be about. And I think the last few days have been that. I think the new players have bought into it. They've been excited by it. They've enjoyed training more than anything. And Matt Ritchie and Callum will be that soundboard for the dressing room. I think there'll be a positive influence within there. But ultimately, it'll be about Eddie in the first couple of weeks. If he can get performances out there on a match day from the training ground, if he can get all the players buying in that short period of these 2 weeks even, in the international break, then I think that's going to be very important. But yeah, it's always maybe a little bit easier for him when he goes into a football club and he knows a couple of the players already and they can help mix within the group. So I think it's a positive all round.
Brilliant. Listen, Simon, it's so good to hear from you. And that's been invaluable insight, really, as to what Eddie Howe will bring to the table. Simon Francis, who's currently at the coaching staff at Bournemouth as well. He's taken on a big job here, isn't he, at Newcastle United? The big question is he going to be given a big war chest to turn things around? How many players is he going to need to replace in that 11 to make a difference?
I'm not too sure.
12.
I'm not too sure. I think he's going to have to go in there, have these first couple of months to assess what sort of squad he's got.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think very rarely does a manager go to a club where 3 of his ex-players are at. Yeah. I wonder if they had an input. I wonder if the chief executive got around the players and sort of, what's he like, that sort of thing. Yeah. But, I think he will be given the first couple of months just to assess it. And then, if they're still in trouble, then bring some players in, hopefully, for Newcastle. But he's in a totally different ballgame. We said about Steven Gerrard shopping at perhaps different superstores. Yeah. Now Eddie Howe's going to be. I mean, he spent quite a bit of money at Bournemouth, as we know, but now he's in a different league and he's got what I was trying to get with Simon Francis is that you can get, no disrespect, but you can get beat at Bournemouth and on the way out, pat you on the back, I'll be all right next week. You get beat there.
You'll know about it.
You know about it. And they keep on about these fans. Everyone keeps on about the Newcastle fans. And Eddie's got to get them on side as early as he can.
Yeah. And the press, James.
The press.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah.
The Newcastle press.
Yeah.
The thing is, the media glare there is not just intense because it's Newcastle. It's become a global story now with the takeover, with who's behind them, with the expectation of spending. I mean, your question there was about the war chest. I think what you were saying about the January transfer window being a difficult window to navigate, clubs in financial difficulty in Europe into Barcelona will be looking at Newcastle as a cash machine to get bad characters out for inflated fees.
Hence Coutinho's link at the minute.
That's where Eddie Howe's got to be, I think, quite careful, quite selective at not jumping at some of the opportunities that will come their way, because it could end up destabilising what is already quite a difficult situation.
That's a big shout, isn't it? When you've got these big names being thrown at you, is to have the bravery, the courage to say, actually, no, I want to go ahead without these guys on board.
We keep speaking about sporting directors, but that's the modern game. You're going to need someone who's going to find these players. The players who are willing to come to Newcastle. You don't want to be playing them over the top. I think whenever Newcastle pick up the phone to any football club now about their players, they're going to add a few £1 million on top, maybe tens and twenties of £1 million. They know they're in a desperate situation. I think all he has to do this year, and it's a big if, keep him in the league. He's making no promises. He said that in his interview. He thinks that he's got the ability, thinks that the squads have the ability, but he's making no promises he can keep him in the Premier League. He's under pressure. If he doesn't keep him in the Premier League, we might be talking about a new manager next season, possibly. Eddie knows that.
Has he been brought in with that in mind? Because he has got promotion from the Championship before.
I think 100% they got all their eggs in the staying up basket. They have to. It would be an embarrassment for a club who have just been taken over to get relegated now. I think he's clever enough to keep them up. I think he's clever enough to deal with the local press guy, whereas Steve Bruce didn't want to play that game. Rafa Benitez played that game brilliantly, got everyone on side. Eddie's clever enough with the media to know he needs he needs the players on side, obviously, but he needs the fans on side. They make a huge difference. If he can get them on side and they can find him the players for January and for the end of the season, forget about that for now, just January. With this group of players, can he keep them up if they made no changes? I would say I doubt it. I think they're going to need 3, 4, maybe possibly 5 in January to keep his players fit, like Callum Wilson, keep him fit. I think he's paramount importance. Sam Maximan, add to that group. You need to find some defenders from somewhere. Tarkowski has been touted around. Burnley are a selling club to the likes of Newcastle. If they come, their eyes will light up, Burnley, because all of a sudden they can put another 10 million on the price. But you know that kid will hit the floor running. There's no risk. If he keeps himself fit, he's going to be massive to him keeping up, because they need to sort their defence out first and foremost.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because Simon Francis spoke about how he expects Eddie to hit the ground running, playing attacking football, but he can't afford to do that straight away. 24 goals conceded in their first 11 games.
And just looking at that first game, I mean, there's going to be 52,000 fans going in there thinking, this is it, Brentford.
Yeah.
Hold on. And, it could be a totally different story and be doom and gloom again. And listen, I think that for Eddie Howe, when Newcastle come, he spoke to Celtic, didn't he? He spoke to 1 or 2 others. But when Newcastle come, he's banking on, I'm going to keep him up this season, and then we're going to have a right go in the summer. And then the expectation levels will be rocketing, wouldn't it? It'll be Europe again for Newcastle.
Yeah, and I suppose, just to show the level of starts, look at it. Right now, 5 points is questionably their worst at this stage of the season. We talk about the 24 goals conceded. 5 of them have been from the penalty spot after 11 games. I mean, that shows ill discipline at the back. There have been Newcastle fans who've been saying they already have defenders who just haven't been given their chance. Fabian Schär being one of them. Federico Fernandez. Can you see them coming from the cold to making a difference to this team?
Well, when I think of Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, I think of that attacking style that you think. I always remember them also conceding 60 goals a season.
Yeah.
60, 70 goals. So if you're bringing in a manager to kind of stiffen up that defence, is Eddie Howe is he the right character? I think that's the question mark I have about that appointment. And also, I got the feeling that entire the recruitment process was a bit of a circus. Remember Unai Emery spoke to them, and then all of a sudden it got leaked. And Villarreal were about to play Manchester United, and the president was like, "I haven't heard anything about this." And then they tried to double down and get Emery again.
Yeah.
And they've ultimately gone with Eddie.
Did they go for Fonseca before or not?
They had 3 conversations with Fonseca. Ultimately,
So Eddie could have been third choice for this job.
could have been. I don't know what the hierarchy was, but clearly towards the end it came down to 2, which was Emery, who they felt they had an agreement with, and then all of a sudden got spooked because it all got leaked. And then they've gone to Eddie Howe. And again, that worries me from a point of club. That club is still in an embryonic stage after the takeover, where there is no sporting director. They're getting lots of different input from different people with different interests, pitching different candidates, pitching different ideas, and that confusion can be
that's always my big bugbear. When clubs are looking for a manager, is it, oh, that's the one I want, and I'm going to go out and get him, so perhaps it was Emery, or who's available, so Eddie Howe's out of work, so there's no complications in that one. Football clubs tend to, well, we're going to talk about Conte a little bit later, but football clubs tend to look at who's available instead of doing what Villa went and done. I want Steven Gerrard. I'm going to go and get him.
But that's quite common, isn't it, with football clubs? Because without being disrespectful to the people who own the football clubs, their knowledge of football is not great. It's not. They need someone to help them out and push them in a correct direction. I'll tell you just a quick story. I was agreed to join West Brom as manager, and I was going to drive up there to sign a contract, and then the next day my phone rings in the morning and someone says, "I thought you was going to West Brom today. They give the job to Tony Pulis." Now, they probably made a correct decision to give it to Tony Pulis, but Tim Sherwood, a starting manager in his career, wants to play on the front foot, open, expansive football, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. And Tony Pulis, who's a real safe pair of hands, was chalk and cheese. So it's a great example of offering me the job the night before and deciding, no, we're going to go safe with Tony Pulis. What do they really want? Do they actually know what they really want? And more often than not, the answer's no. And what they end up doing, man, is just keep making mistakes, keep rolling the dice again. But get it right in the first place. They haven't got time for any more mistakes.
No, in fact, the appointment of sporting director is arguably as important as bringing the manager in. Michael Emenalo is the latest one to be linked, formerly of Chelsea, and remains to be seen whether he signs along the dotted line. Very briefly, Tim, do you see Eddie being a success at Newcastle?
I really hope he is. I think it all depends on what they do for him in the transfer window. I think January is huge for him. With this group of players, I don't think he keeps them up. I don't think anyone does. I don't think Harry Potter keeps them up.
OK.